Hey, it's KR of D&D Homebrew talking today why Shadowdark may be the OSR killer system. And I say this because it came up. I recently did with Jason of the Nerd RPG Variety Cast. I did an episode. We were talking about movies. I'll put a link down to it in the description. We were doing movies, but both of us had just coincidentally played Shadowdark a couple days before. So we said, oh, let's talk about it. And we were both kind of enthusiastic. And I had said, this may be the OSR killer as opposed to the classic. Everybody always talks about, is this a system that's finally the D&D killer, that everyone just abandons D&D, especially after the OGL thing, and moves to this system? And my point has always been, it's a little like that Barracuda is a real killer, but compared to the blue whale, it's not going to do much, right? D&D is the ubiquitous generic term for RPG games. Hasbro, their biggest opponent is themselves in terms of the success of their product. But I thought, if you're looking for a rules light system that emulates that style, and I say emulate because immediately my podcast partner, Dan Norton, said to me, well, it's not an OSR. So how could it be an OSR killer, right? It may be NSR or something, whatever these definitions are. And he's right. I was just saying that because I'm thinking people want to get away from the complexity they see with 5e or other similar systems. And here comes this system that is very simple compared to 5e. It has the potential to fill that niche because of its marketing, you could say, which I think is a little overblown. Yes, there's been tremendous marketing. The Kickstarter campaigns, the new one went through the roof. I think that I can identify 5 reasons why Shadowdark has the potential to be the go-to rules light system. I'm not going to say OSR killer. I said it half as a gag on that podcast. You can listen to it. 5 reasons, and probably I'll think of some more, but 5 that just come to me off the top of my head. All right, so the first one is just overall the presentation of this system is very well done. The way it's organized, the way there's a little bit of back and forth and looking at rules and stuff, but really not. It's all presented very sequentially. It all makes sense. Kelsey Dion, I don't know how this, the famous Dion quintuplets of a long time ago. But the way she has done this presentation is she wrote a lot of modules, did a lot of stuff in the past, is a very good writer, and knew how to make this simple. They used to say, I know people say BX is the best system to learn to play a role-playing game. You really have to learn from somebody else. I don't think you could read this necessarily if you've never played a role-playing game and play it. But this one, I think, is up there with, if you want to show somebody how to play a role-playing game, show them Shadowdark. It's very intuitive and simple as opposed to don't show them Pathfinder or Rollmaster or something like that, or even AD&D First Edition. That's complicated. So I think it has that going for it. Somebody that knows how to organize a rule set, make it clear, concise, and with the rules light emphasis, that helps. Reason number 2 is that the ancestries and character classes are very simple and very concisely explained. The dwarf category is basically a little brief description of dwarves, the languages they know, and then their special ability. Incredibly easy to understand, not all the elaborate stuff that you see in other editions, including 5e. And then the character classes themselves, you got 4 classes, right? You got fighter, priest, thief, and wizard. Each of those has very basic, descriptions. So the fighter has the weapons they can use, armor, basically any special abilities. There's a hauler, they can use their con for gear. They have a weapon mastery ability +1 to attack and damage with a select weapon. And then they have advantage for a certain strength or, opposed checks. And that's it. Okay. And each of these character classes is like half a page. So you've got simple ancestries, simple character classes that anybody can understand very quickly. Reason number 3 is the talent system. All the characters have the potential for different talents, and this individuates the characters, not by a whole lot, but at least more. When you first roll your character, you get a chance for a talent. If you're a human, you get 2 chances, which makes humans advantageous. And there's no dark vision or any, true vision or any twilight vision, whatever. Everybody's and when it's dark, you're out. You can't see. So you look at the fighter talents, and what's interesting here is 2 through 12. 2 is, hard to roll. It's like a 3% chance. 12 is 3%. Then you get into the middle here. I think 10 to 11 is about a little 10 or 15%. Then you go to the middle ones. 3 to 6 is 35. 7 to 9 is 40. So 75% chance you're going to roll one of those. And you get that at the beginning. And those can be nice. +1 to melee and range. Those are cumulative. Those add on to your other, your weapon bonus. So you start to add to that. And you get these at first, then 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th. So they add up. So you start, and you can get different ones because you roll each time. So different characters are going to have different talents. And I think this is a good way to have a little bit of individuation or, unique characters without creating some elaborately complicated system. The fourth reason that this is interesting is their spellcasting system. Now, this is taken from DCC. There's probably other systems out there that do this as well. But basically what you do is you roll, you have the number of spells that you have memorized, or not memorized, but learned that sorry. Every time you want to throw them, you have to make a check. The basic check is 10 plus the level of the spell. Then you get to add to your roll your intelligence modifier, which is why talents, right? As you get these talents, because the 12 is often like choose to distribute 2 points. So you can get up to 18 intelligence to add, that adds 3 and 4 in this system. So that'll give you, and you can also get advantage on one spell. Now, if you roll a 1, you get a catastrophic failure. For wizards, a wizard mishap table, again, borrowed from DCC, where horrific things can happen. You go to the really high level spells. It could be a gate to another dimension or whatever. That's a 5% chance all the time. 20 is a critical success, like it is with hits where you double the damage. In this, you double the effect of the spell. So you have that kind of craziness, randomness potential. You also have focus spells where you can basically sustain it. So like Acid Arrow, it goes into someone, does 1d6 automatically. If you sustain it with the focus concentration check, and they do another 1d6. If you fail, it goes away, but you can throw that again. Whereas when you're trying to throw the spell initially, if you fail your check, you can't throw it the rest of the day. If you make it, you can just keep throwing it and throwing it. So it really helps to have those high characteristics. If the priest fails it, they have to make a penance, which can either be something that the GM decides or pure cash, depending on the failure and the level of the spell. So it's kind of interesting. I think I'm on 5 at this point. I'm not sure. I'll just go with that. Is the advantage disadvantage. I keep mentioning that. I know a lot of people out there do not like the advantage disadvantage. They feel like it's I don't know, it's kind of lazy, right? And depending on what you need, if you need like a 10, 11, or 12, it's a big bonus to get advantage, like +5, whereas at the end's not as much. But I think advantage, disadvantage, which is used in this, it's not constantly, but it's there enough, and especially with skill checks and things like that, where the GM, has a little bit of leeway. People understand that very easily because we're talking about why people might gravitate to this system as opposed to other rules light systems. And that is something in 5e that I think people really like. So whether you love it or you hate it, well, here's another one. Here's my number 5, which is luck points, basically hero points. This written in the way everybody use them, which is you can roll something and then say, I want to re-roll that. And you can give them to other people to re-roll that. So in critical situations, and you're trying to, someone can hand you a luck point or something, death defying you, you save them for the critical moment when you need them. They can be very exciting. I know people don't like them as a meta currency that distorts the game, that makes it gamey, that makes it video, whatever you want to say. But I think that people really like them, and I think that's something that's going to attract people. So I'm going to add some. I keep thinking as I'm talking about this. So number 6 is the monsters have characteristics like the players, strength, intelligence, wisdom, etc. They have bonuses basically. And this makes it, accessible in terms of both thinking about how they're operating in the world, but also doing saves and checks. Something I think they started in 3rd edition D&D, and I think it is a good, again, this is now we're getting up into 6. This isn't necessarily that important. I think the other reasons are much more for popular demand, but I enjoy that. Oh, I'm also gonna say, so am I at 6 or 5? I can't. I'm gonna have to look at this and see. So I'll bleep on here what this should be. The XP system in this is good in that it doesn't go for the old school, everybody has different experience points, and you gotta have tons of points to go to the higher levels. It doesn't even do the 5e system where, let's face it, people go to milestones as you get up there and everything. Basically, to gain a level, you need to earn your current level times 10. So if you start at first level, to get to second, you need 20 XP. To get to third, you need 30 XP. And each level, it goes down to 0. So you're always getting the next level's points. You get it from treasure that you collect. You get it from this thing called carousing, where you spend gold to go out on the town. And then you can get it from the GM giving you stuff for, heroic moves or great role plays or just inventive play. Never liked the third one as much because there's a way to, fiat things and favoritism and whatever. The most you can get from that is +5. The most, if you spend a fortune, that you can get is +6 XP for carousing. And then I think treasure, you'd have to look at the charts. They have charts depending on the amount of treasure and how much, the party is, the strength of the party. Well, what happens there, you can see as a player and GM how this is going to work as you're going out into the world and finding treasure and stuff and doing this carousing and stuff, such that it's not impossible at certain, the higher levels necessarily. It's harder, but it's not impossible, or at least, it doesn't take you forever. And I think that's a good thing. You can see it, you start playing it, you see how the treasure's handed out, how the carousing works. So in seeing that is going to appeal to people who, let's face it, they like to level up. At times, I've had players who told me, I don't even care about it. I'm having fun at 5th, 6th level, right? But I think if they were 6th level for a year, maybe they might, every session, 50 sessions, they're still 6th. Maybe they'd still be like, I'm having the time of my life. I don't know. But I think people like to level up, and this system has a good one. So those are I guess I did 6. I don't know. I'll have to count them up, how many I did. Reasons that I think that Shadowdark has the potential to be the go-to rules light system. Part of it is this emulation or using things from 5e, but I also think part of it is the simple character class. And this, I didn't even go into some of the spells. Just one thing, like the Cure Light is interesting. 1 cure, first level cleric spell. But you get 1d6 plus half your level dice. So at first level, you have 1 die, 1d6. At second level, you get an extra die, 2. And at 4th level, you get 3. And 6th level, 4, and so on. So you're going up in heals, right? And there's no cure serious. The only other spell is a 5th level spell, heal, which heals every hit point lost to somebody. You can only use those once per day. But they'd be using those cures as well. And again, there's a lot of different things in there. There's some ambiguities. So for example, I don't care for you were supposed to roll 3 6-siders in succession, like we used to do. If I want to play a wizard, I just have to get lucky and roll intelligence. Now, it can distort things. I would say that you either roll 3d6 and you can put them where you want. Or if you want to go in order, maybe roll 4d6 and take the best 3. Or if you really want to get heroic and pulpy, roll 4d6 and put them, take the top 3 and put them wherever you want. That's what I like. Famously, in the 1st edition, Gary Gygax said, hey, characteristics are too important to be just left to random rolls. You should, roll 4 and take the best. And there's a few other things it's clearly a dungeon crawl system. I did a whole video before this where I went through the whole rule book. It's like an hour long. And I've done those before, and it starts to be too much. But there's some spells in there that are ambiguous. The distances are close, which is, hand to hand, near, which is within 30 feet, and then far, which is as far as you can see. Well, it's one thing in a dungeon. But if you're on a ship or out in the desert, far as you can see, and you can throw a javelin far. Now, I don't know what the world record for javelin. I'll put it here, the world record. But if I'm, in theory, I can throw that a mile, right? So you got to make some GM decisions on that sort of thing. I like, I'm a person that loves tactical combat, so I don't mind distances. I can see how people get annoyed. She does give you those distances of close, near, and far. It's clearly slanted towards, so here I am criticizing it, but it is clearly slanted towards dungeon crawls. But it has all sorts of rules on random monsters and creating towns, and a lot of GM help. I'm not sure that's what's going to attract people. As I said, I have my top 5. So anyway, hopefully that answers those critics, not here on the YouTube thing, but the people that I talk to about why this system, I think, has the potential to be a go-to rules light system. And of course, a shout out to my Patreon supporters. This week I did Geometric Dungeon, which was these wizards with this mathematical system, really fun. Love to hear your opinions of Shadowdark if you've played it. I played it 3 times. I've read the rules. I bought the rules set for Fantasy Grounds. I'm going to be running it there. Give me a comment, a like, subscribe. Most importantly, play a RPG game, perhaps Shadowdark or any other you choose, and tell somebody else about it.